Okay, so you are going to be asked from now on, we're going to have to write things in interval notation. So some of you have seen it before, some of you may not have, and that's okay. But on your test on Tuesday, for the inequality section, it's going to say solve the inequality. So you need your inequality statement like x is greater than 2, whatever. Then you have to graph it on your number line, and then you have to write your answer in interval notation. What I want you guys to understand, to remember, to keep in mind is that you read a graph, write this down. You read a graph, always, 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 just like we read a sentence or we read a book, left to right. You're always going to read from negative infinity to positive infinity. Negative infinity on the left-hand side of the x-axis to positive infinity on the right-hand side of the axis. Okay, very important to understand. Now, just a little reminder, when you have the signs less than or greater than, does not have the equal to line underneath, right? It does not include the value that's there. So if it says x is less than 2, it's everything less than 2, but doesn't include 2. The way that you show that on your number line is with an open dot, right? So with interval notation, the way you show everything up to that number but doesn't include it is with parentheses. These are parentheses. You guys know what parentheses are. Okay? Parentheses means not included. So when we look at our greater than or less than or equal to, that means it does include the value. You use a closed dot, and when you're writing your interval notation, you use what's called brackets. That's how you would show me, yes, the number is included, or no, it's not. So parentheses go with your open dot, not included, and then brackets are with the closed dot, and those values are included. Whenever you start or end with either negative infinity or positive infinity, you use parentheses. Infinities don't get brackets because there's no specific starting or stopping point to infinity. You use parentheses. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so when you are doing interval notation, you should solve your inequality, graph it, then do your interval notation, because it's easier to do interval notation when you have your graph to read. So I just gave you a couple of examples of graphs here so we can look at it. Can anybody tell me what the inequality statement would be for number 1? What are the values that I can use? Just look at it. Everything has to be less than negative 2. So your inequality statement would be x less than negative 2. So you guys would solve your inequality and get x is less than negative 2. Then you would graph it, just like we did here. Now, if you're going to write your interval notation, which on your test, it'll have a line that says interval notation. How do we read a sentence or a book? Left to right, correct? So we start over here at negative infinity. So I can use everything on negative infinity all the way up to what number? Negative 2. Does it include negative 2? No. So what do I put on negative 2? A parenthesis. There's your interval notation. So when you are answering your questions on your test on Tuesday, all 3 parts of this constitute your answer. You solve for your inequality statement, you then graph, and then you give interval notation. All 3 things need to be for every one of your inequalities. Everybody understand that? All right, let's look at number 2. What are your x values here? Just by looking at the graph, don't even worry about what your inequality statement is. What are the x values here? Okay, where is x? In the middle. It's in between, right? So x is in between negative 1 and 3. What are the signs that are on either side? Perfect. Good. So x is between negative 1 and 3. Can it include negative 1? No. Can it include 3? So left to right. We read from left to right. So my boundaries are negative 1 to 3. Agreed? X is somewhere in the middle there. What goes on the negative 1? A parenthesis because it does not include. And what goes on positive 3? Because it what? It does include. Does that make sense?
That was your answer?
All 3 of those. You're going to solve the inequality, so you'll get your inequality statement. Then you're going to graph it, and then you're going to write the interval notation. All three things.
So if it's filled in, it's a bracket, and
correct.
If it's not, it's a parentheses?
Correct. Okay. Let's look over here at number 3. What's my inequality statement? X is greater than or equal to 1/2. Perfect. So reading left to right, ladies and gents, I can use from left, what's the first value I can use? 1/2, and I can use all the way up to what? Positive infinity. So what what notation goes on the 1/2? A bracket. And what goes on the infinity? A parenthesis. Do you ever have a specific starting or stopping point with infinity? No. So you always put a parenthesis. It's open-ended. Yes. Okay. Question? That was your question? Okay. Look at the last one. This one's tricky. What's the left side of the inequality say? X is less than -2. And what's the right say? X is greater than or equal to 3. All right, there's a gap here in the middle. That's okay. How would you write your notation? From left to right, I can use what? Parenthesis, negative infinity to -2 parenthesis. Then you can use a U, like and, union. Then what? Bracket 3 to positive infinity. Perfect. Very good, guys. Just because there's 2 of them. It's like saying and in math.
So if it's split up, we use the U.
If you're saying this and that. Or you could say or, it doesn't matter. But just note, like, see how on this number line there's two places that'll satisfy. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, I'll upload this.